So we're gonna get started without music this evening. The playlist is a little shorter. So we'll get started in silence, taking a child's pose, I'm thinking, and maybe something that's supported. Um, I have a block and a blanket, and maybe for under your knees, you're kind of building up the blanket for some padding. And it might be nice to take the block up onto its lower medium setting or wherever it needs to go and drop your head down onto the block and just make this like the most easygoing child's pose. You're starting off in silence, finding your child's pose, maybe block under the forehead. Hi, Sandy. Hi, Amber. Hey, Monica. Good. Just allowing yourself to settle in, to find some stillness. Really take notice of the shoulders and how they're feeling, and you can tuck your arms underneath you, you can have them around you, whatever works, but just finding a whole lot of ease there. Ideally, not a whole lot of tension in the shoulders in whatever shape you choose. Good, and then take notice of your breathing. And feel your belly press against your knees, your thighs. Feel the middle of your back and how it moves. Good, and then now feel into your lower back, around your kidneys especially. And just let your breath become maybe a little bit deeper, a little bit fuller. Great, and we are in Pisces season in full swing, which is, it's really about just depth of feeling at its most basic. It's about vulnerability in a lot of different ways. Vulnerability with yourself and maybe with others. And I thought I would read this little bit from David White about vulnerability. He writes, vulnerability is not a weakness, a passing in disposition, or something we can arrange to do without. Vulnerability is not a choice. Vulnerability is the underlying, ever-present, and abiding undercurrent of our natural state. To run from vulnerability is to run from the essence of our nature. The attempt to be invulnerable is the vain attempt to become something we are not, and most especially, to close off our understanding of the grief of others. More seriously, in refusing our vulnerability, we refuse the help needed at every turn of our existence and immobilize the essential, title, and conversational foundations of our identity. Allowing yourself to breathe and just to notice how things are for you this evening. The clench or the release in your body. If you have your head on the block, it might be nice to rock your head gently from side to side here a little bit. Notice what your jaw is doing. The skin right in front of your ears. Good, and we'll just take another few deep breaths. For these next couple of breaths, just notice the forehead as it touches the ground. Let it soften completely. All right. And we're going to make our way out onto our bellies for a little bit of a backbending, gentle backbending practice, but you might want to turn on your music before, before you get there. Right, so finding your belly, and just kind of removing the props from your mat, clearing your space. As you find your way onto your belly, turn your head over to one side and just kind of tuck your arms alongside your body so that your upper back has a chance to sort of round. Good. And feel the breath move the upper back. Good. All right, and then take a little bit of time to just bring the hands under the shoulders, press into the hands, and lift the chest really gently, like this little baby cobra. Good, and you can set yourself down and just kind of find this gentle undulation, lifting the heart up, setting it back down, moving all of the vertebrae in that mid-back. Good. You might even set your head all the way down as you make it down and then pick your head up last. Nice. Good. Another breath or two like this. Good, and then set yourself back down, bend the knees, rock your hips side to side. Good, and then we'll prop ourselves up into a Sphinx pose. So taking this passive, kind of passive back bend. Good, we're thinking about though, pulling the elbows back towards the side of the rib cage without actually really moving the elbows. Just as a way to find a little bit more space in the low belly. Good, if you want to drop your head down, you're welcome to do that here. Good, and then from here in your Sphinx pose, bring your left knee up towards the left side of the chest. You can keep your upper body lifted if you want to. You might decide to extend that left leg out long to the side. Right, if you want to set your chest down, that's another option too. Good, so a few deep breaths, noticing that left hip. Good, and then extend that left leg nice and long behind you. Good, we'll pull the right knee up towards the right side of the chest, same kind of thing. Taking your half frog Sphinx situation. Maybe your right leg extends out long. Maybe it stays bent. Good, and then let's bring that right leg nice and long behind again. And set the chest down on the floor. You can turn your head to the other side. Good, shake the hips side to side. Good. All right, and so from here, we're gonna lift up into a locust pose. Just picking your feet up. You might take the arms alongside the body. You might do a little bit of floor swimming if that suits you. Good. You'll know when you're done, and when you're ready, set yourself back down to the floor. Good. Make contact to really sink in. Good. And then hands come under the shoulders. Let's press up and onto hands and knees. And as you find your hands and knees, all of the little movements that you like to make. Good. Circling the hips, the shoulders maybe. Good. Spine like a jump rope perhaps. Good. And thinking about moving slowly here. Good. And then from hands and knees, let's extend that right leg nice and long behind. Hold it up for a moment. Notice what's going on around that left hip and feel the lower belly kind of pick up here. Good. And we're going to take that right knee around in a big circle. Just moving that right hip. Okay, if you're taking those circles, go in the other direction. Good, and then send that right leg nice and long behind. We're gonna cross it over and just look out past that left shoulder for your right toes. Good, bring that right leg nice and long behind you again, and then set the knee down. And we're gonna shift back here into a hero's pose. So sitting on the heels. Good, let your hands rest in your lap. Good, and feel the heart kind of pick up a little bit. Good, and then let's move out onto hands and knees, and we'll take the left leg nice and long behind, just holding it high for a moment. You notice the right hip, feel the low belly lift. Good, and then start to move that left leg around in a big circle. Good, circles in the other direction. Good, and then extend that left leg nice and long behind you again. We're gonna cross it over the midline. And take a look over your right shoulder for those left toes. Good, let's bring that left leg long behind again. Drop the left knee down. And let's take another hero's pose here. Your heels might be a little bit wider than the hips. Maybe you're starting to sit the hips down a little bit. Seat still hovering perhaps. You might take your fingers to your arches and just massage your feet for a sec. Good, another breath or two. Good, and then we'll come back out onto hands and knees. Tuck the toes, downward facing dog. Good, take your time here, pedal things out. Nice, let your head drop way down. Good, let your tongue relax, your eyes relax. Oh, puppy. Good, and then as you inhale, look in between your hands and exhale to bring your feet up to the top of the mat. Maybe it's a slow walk up there. Good, and then widen your stance a little bit, soften the knees a bit, grab those elbows, and just take a little swing from side to side. Good. And in the slowest possible way, stand up. You might keep your hands on your elbows as you go. Good, reaching those biceps out past the ears. Good, and then slowly roll yourself back down, belly towards the thighs. Good, and you might decide to take your fingers to the back of your neck and give yourself a little like base of the skull massage. Good. Yeah, as you inhale, lift up halfway. Exhale, plant your palms down and step it back into a high plank pose. Plank with the knees down or hands and knees. Good, holding this here for a moment and just enjoying the breath. You're looking for it. Good, you can lower all the way down into your belly. And as you get there, make contact and then press into the hands, lift up the heart, get a sense of your low belly and low back. Nice. And you can find child's pose or downward facing dog, whatever you'd like a little bit of now. Good. Or maybe a standing forward fold. Good. From your downward dog, take a breath in and look in between your hands. And then breathe out and bring your feet up to the top of the mat. Good. Yeah, widen your stance again. Grab those elbows, take that sway from side to side, and you might even sort of exaggerate it a little bit. Like deeply bending the right knee as the right side of the chest falls in towards the thigh. Going the other direction. Maybe you're even sort of moving almost up to like a halfway lift. Good, and then really slowly make your way all the way up to standing. If you have your hands on your elbows, just kind of loosely clasp your hands overhead, like you're making a circle around your head. Good, and then start to make some small circles here. Good, let's slow the roll, move it back to center, hands down to the heart. Good, let your thumb knuckles connect for a moment. Good, one more slow breath. Good, and then we'll take our hands onto our hips. And we'll take our figure eights here. So just sort of pressing that right hip forward and then pressing the left hip forward, right hip, left hip. Good, just moving in this figure eight here. See if you can keep your jaw kind of relaxed. You can keep your eyes relaxed, your shoulders. Maybe you want to speed it up or slow it down. And eventually just change your direction. And take notice of how that feels. Notice if you're breathing through your nose or your mouth. Good, and then slow your roll, coming back to the center. Hands are nice and heavy by your sides, mountain pose. Good, inhale, raise the arms up and overhead. Exhale, fold forward over two long legs. Good, inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plant your palms and step, walk, or hop it back to your high plank, your low plank. Maybe you want to flow through an upward dog and all of that good stuff. Maybe it's time for rest, cats and cows. Nice. Good. Once you make it back to your down dog, let your fingers be spread out as wide as they comfortably can be. Good. And same thing with your toes. Maybe you're lifting up your toes and spreading them out and setting them back down in your down dog. Good. Another breath or two here. Good. Inhale, look in between the hands. Exhale, step walk or hop on up to the top. Good. As you get there, halfway lift, nice and strong, angular. Good. Exhale, fold yourself forward and loosen. Good. And then that softness all the way up, bending the knees, rolling up, reaching those arms high. Good. Finding a little bit of a lift through the sternum here. Good. And then hands come together at the heart. Good. And then hands come down to the hips. Good. And then let's take the hands behind the pelvis and interlace the fingers. And just kind of slide your thumb knuckles down your tailbone a little bit here. So this is like a wee little back bend. A big chest opener. Good. And then slowly fold yourself forward. Standing yoga mudra, knuckles high. Good. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plant the palms. Take it back and through your flow at your own pace. Good. Your own favorite series of like balancing poses. Good. On your way back to downward dog. When you get there, take a few breaths. Inhale, look in between the hands. Exhale, bring your feet on up to the top of the mat. Good. Inhale, halfway lift, so strong. Arms maybe come alongside the body like in a locust pose. Good. Exhale, fold forward and swipe your hands on the backs of your legs. Good. Inhale, come all the way up, sliding your fingers up the front of your body as you go, keeping nice and soft until you get to the top. Arms long, feet pressing into the ground. Good, kneecaps lift. Good, hands come together. Bring the thumb knuckles down to the third eye. And then down to the heart. And then hands come to the hips or low belly. Good, swim them back behind you. Interlace the fingers. Slide the thumb knuckles down. Look up. Exhale, fold forward. Good, inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plant your palms, take it back and through your flow. Good. Good. So in your down dog, a few breaths just to reset, just to listen in again. Perfect. Yeah, and your next inhale, look forward. Exhale, walk, step, or hop to the top. Inhale, halfway lift, that strong lift. Good. Exhale, fold yourself forward, soften, and then rolling up nice and soft all the way to the top. Those arms maybe out wide like the letter Y here. Looking up. Good, then hands come back together at the third eye. Good, and down to the heart. Good, hands rest in the low belly. Good, and then just fold forward, sliding those hands down the backs of your legs. Good, inhale, let's lift all or halfway up, hands slide up the fronts of the legs. Good, now plant the palms down and step it on back into your high plank pose if you want to go there. And maybe you spend a little bit of time shifting from side to side, dropping your heels over here, dropping your heels over there. If you like to lift an arm and take a side plank, that's a thought. If you're building strength and wrist flexibility, yeah, just drop those heels. And remember, you can always bring a knee down. And you'll kind of know when you're done with all of that sort of thing. And then you can just make your way through your flow back into downward dog. Good. When you make it back there, a few breaths. Good, inhale, raise that right leg up and back behind you. Exhale, step the right foot in between your hands at the top of the mat. We're gonna drop that left knee down and just take kind of like a basic low lunge here. Something kind of simple. Your hands can be on your knee, they could be on the ground, either framing that right foot or to the inside of the right foot. And if you feel like lifting high, that's a thought too. Maybe the arms come overhead. Good, noticing that left hip in front. And the way the heart feels. And then we'll set those hands down. And we're going to shift back into almost like a three-legged dog, but with the left knee down. So a three-legged table. Good. Open up through the hip and look back for that right foot with your eyes over your left shoulder. Good. And then we're going to swing that right leg around, bring it back down to the top of the mat, tuck the left toes underneath, and come into a twist. Right arm reaches high. Good, let's take that right hand down and we're gonna just kind of pivot so that we're facing the long edge of the mat and take a standing wide angle. As you drop the head down, notice those shoulders, maybe you swing them around a little bit. Let the elbows kind of move side to side or grab the elbows. Good, and then from here, we'll walk the hands back around to frame that right foot. We're gonna step it back into a high plank pose, or plank with the knees down. And then you might decide to drop your heels to the right and lift up that left arm, side plank. Good, when you're ready, come back to center and find your flow through, whatever works. Maybe it's time spent sitting on your heels. Maybe it's a chaturanga. Good. Big breath or two in your downward dog. All right, that left leg extends up and back behind you. Good. Bring the left foot forward and then drop your right knee down. Just kind of wiggling into your low lunge. And sometimes when you're in these low lunges, especially if you have super flexible hips, there's a point where it's really nice to engage a little bit to kind of protect the joint. Good. So if having that knee down doesn't feel quite right, you're always welcome to lift it up and really engage through the thigh. Good. We'll hang here for a moment. Good, and then we'll bring the hands back down. We're gonna shift back into that kind of like three-legged dog on the knee. You're taking the left toes back. Look over your right shoulder. And from here, let's just swing that left leg around and set it down at the top of the mat. We'll tuck the right toes underneath and take the twist. Left arm reaches high. Good. All right, let's take that left hand down, walk it back around, standing wide angle. Good, and from here, you might focus on keeping the legs long and just letting the upper body drop down. Or you might decide to take a deep knee bend from side to side. Just taking a couple of breaths over here and over there. If you're moving side to side, really notice how the knees feel, the ankles, and inside lines of the legs. And another couple of breaths. Good. Eventually, you'll walk your hands back around to the top of the mat and just take it on back, high plank pose. If you want to take your side plank, dropping heels over to the left, you're welcome to go there. But eventually, yeah, find your flow through. Perfect. And it might be nice to spend a moment in child's pose again, especially if, you know, it's hard to stay focused and present. You find yourself going elsewhere. Yeah, you might decide to just kind of settle in here for 5 breaths or so. Reconnect yourself to the ground. The sound of your own breath. Nice. Perfect. So from here, I was thinking of maybe a rabbit pose where you roll up onto the top of your head. Or if you're somebody who likes to come into a dolphin pose, you could also do that. Dolphin just being forearms down, toes tucking, hips lifting. You're spending just a little bit of time upside down and knowing that child's pose is upside down too. Nice. Yeah, so either a dolphin pose or maybe a rabbit pose for a moment. Nice. Good. If you've chosen the dolphin pose, you might think about pressing into the hands, lifting the elbows to come up to down dog, or maybe you want to drop those knees down and make your way back. Good. We'll all come back to down dog. Raise the right leg high. As you exhale, step the right foot in between your hands. And we're going to spin the left heel down and just come up into warrior 1 legs. Then we'll take our hands to our hips and just kind of notice the tilt of your pelvis. Good, and then you might even take your hands onto your lower belly for a moment as you lift the heart up, noticing how the lower belly is affected by up here. Good, interlace your hands behind your back, humble warrior, head comes down to the inside of that right leg. Good, and very slowly release the arms. We're going to inhale all the way up into warrior 1, both arms reaching high. Good, and then we'll take both hands down to the floor or maybe onto a block, and we'll lift that left leg up and come up into half moon pose. Good, and Ardha Chandrasana, half moon. Remembering your side plank, lifting the side of your belly up. Good, that left arm might reach high. Good. And then from here, just gently bend that right knee and set the left foot down about halfway on the mat, coming into pyramid pose. Good, allow the head to be nice and heavy here. And then very slowly start to lift yourself up here so that you're standing up. Good, hands come together at the heart. And we're just going to place weight into the right foot and cross that left ankle over the right knee. And you might sit down here. You might stay up. Okay, but noticing your balance. Good, 1 more deep breath. And then stand up, reach your arms nice and high. Set that left foot down. Let's take the prayer hands down to your third eye point. And then down to your heart. Hands to your hips, your low belly. Exhale, slide your hands down the backs of your legs. Inhale, halfway lift, hands slide up the front of your legs. Good, bring your palms down, step back, and just move through your flow, whatever works. Maybe you want to spend time shifting between down dog and plank. Maybe you want to spend a couple breaths on your belly. Good, just moving through. Let's extend that left leg up and back behind, hold it high. Good, that left foot will step through in between the hands. Spin the right heel down. And then bring yourself up into those warrior one legs. Hands to the hips. Sometimes I like to make a fist. In this case, it would be with my left hand. And just kind of place my knuckles on my tailbone. And then raise my right arm up. Good, feeling that nice space in the right front body. Good. Another breath. Good. Arms nice and heavy alongside the body. Fingers spread wide. Good. Interlace the fingers at the low back. Lift the heart. Exhale, humble warrior. Beautiful. Let those arms drop down. Inhale, sweep yourself up, warrior one. Good, and then hands come down. Let's frame that left foot. Lift the right leg up. Maybe this turns into Ardha Chandrasana, half moon pose. Right hip spinning open. Yeah, maybe that right hand reaches up, but support yourself with the muscles of the left side waist. Good, bring your hands back down. Step that right foot about halfway back on the mat, toes pointing forward. Good, pyramid pose. Good, really slowly lift yourself up to standing here. Reach your arms up and overhead, big stretch. And then your hands come down to the heart. Good, let's shift forward onto that left foot and cross the right ankle over and just kind of take your figure four chair pose. And sitting down as low as works in your body. Wonderful. Let's play it in reverse. Stand up nice and tall. Reach those arms high. Place that right foot down. Exhale, fingers to the third eye. To the heart. Hands to the hips. Fold forward. Slide the hands on the backs of the legs. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plant your palms and just take it back and through your flow. Good. Good. Take a moment in a child's pose or maybe even a puppy pose. Your hips above your knees. If you've opted for puppy pose, it might be nice to have the elbows slightly bent, but maybe the arms are long. Good. And then very slowly we'll make our way back into downward dog. Maybe you want to take a little wiggle around before getting there. Good. All right, so from here, we're gonna raise that right leg nice and high. If you like to flip a dog around, you're welcome to do that, dropping your right foot back behind you, picking up the right arm. Or maybe you just remain here with the open hip. Good, step that right foot in between your hands. Spin the left heel down. Warrior one legs. If you're really craving sending the arms high, then go ahead and do it. Maybe you're focusing on a little bit more softness in the upper body. Good. Just be another breath or two here, feeling really strong in the legs. Good. And then we're going to spring off of that left foot and bring the left knee up in towards the chest. Good. If you like to reach for your left toes with your left finger, you can. If you have a strap in your body, you want to use it, that's an option too. Or grab the knee. Good. And we're just going to open up the hip to the side. Good. If you're accustomed to extending your leg out long in any of these shapes, you're welcome to visit that. And eventually the knee will come back in towards the chest, refolding that leg. Bring that left heel back towards the left sitting bone. And you might decide to stand up and pull that heel in towards your glute. Or if you want to take a dancer, there's always dancer. And eventually just a mountain pose, hands on the hips or the low belly, or maybe even the low back, like you've got some pockets. Good, a few breaths. Good, inhale, raise those arms nice and high. Exhale, fold yourself forward. Good, roll through your flow if you want to. Maybe you're remaining in your downward, or sorry, you're standing forward fold if that sounds better. Good, taking a few big breaths more. If you have gone through a vinyasa and you're back in downward dog, make the next few breaths your trip up to the top of the mat. Standing forward fold again. Good. Slowly roll yourself all the way up to standing, reaching those arms nice and high. You might take the sweep down the midline, thumb knuckles to the third eye. Good. Thumb knuckles to the heart. Good. Hands to the hips. Good. And from here, we're going to stand up on that left foot and bring the right knee in towards the chest. Good. Maybe you stay here. Maybe you want to reach down for your big toe with your index and middle fingers. Stand up tall. Take the hip to the side. Maybe perhaps you want to extend your right leg out long in some way, forward or out to the side. Just a few more breaths. All right, and then go ahead and just release that right heel back to the right sitting bone. Maybe grabbing a hold of your right foot with your right hand. And if you want to take your dancer, go for it. Left arm reaches forward. And then very slowly, just kind of come on out of it, taking that right foot down to the floor, hands together at the heart. Good, fold yourself forward. And make your way through your flow, all the way back to down dog. Good. And from your downward facing dog, inhale, raise that right leg up and back behind you. Exhale, step the right foot in between your hands at the top of the mat. And actually wiggle it out a little wider. We're going to drop down into a lizard kind of shape here. That left knee will come down. And you might sink the chest down towards the floor. Maybe you want to stay up. Lizard pose is one of these poses where there's like so much going on. All right, but see if you can kind of scan through all of the areas that are really talking to you. And just notice what's going on there. How does your left hip feel, the knee? Does your body want to sway a little bit, or does it want some stillness? What does your breath want to be doing? We'll be here for just maybe another 5 breaths or so. Good, and then slowly begin to kind of lift yourself back up and out of this. We're gonna take a runner stretch here. So a nice long right leg. Okay, left knee can be down. Good, flex that foot as well, really feeling into the back of the leg. And if you want to play around with maybe sliding your right heel forward, that's a thought. You don't like have to go anywhere with it, but maybe you're moving into something resembling like a Hanuman split pose. Maybe not. And the good news is that the next step is going to be curling up into a little ball. So after you kind of extract yourself from that, make your way back into child's pose. Good. Fold yourself up. Get soft again. Good. And then from here, make your way back into downward dog. And maybe you do want to flow through a little something on your way there, just to kind of put your spine through the movements. And eventually that left leg will extend up nice and long behind. And step that left foot forward, just to the outside of that left hand, and drop your right knee down. Good, and we'll just hang here for a moment. There might be that little side to side swing. There might be forearms to the ground. Yeah, just notice what your hips are feeling like and willing to do here. And just know that you never have to like push it. That's not what this is about. Good. Big breaths. Good, and you'll know when it's time to come out of this and back into your runner stretch. Just take your time getting there. Good, that left leg nice and long behind, in front of you, actually. Good, and maybe at first you're really pressing the pads of your toes into the ground and getting that opening through the top of your foot. It's so many vital points on the top of your foot. Good, and then a deep flex of that left foot, getting into the back of the leg. Good, and if you want to play with sliding that left heel forward, it's a thought. Good, maybe you're sliding forward like a millimeter. Maybe you go pretty far, who knows? But when you end up in your, wherever you go, just breathe. Good, and then extracting yourself from this shape, whatever you ended up in, just coming right back into either a child's pose or sitting back on your heels, whichever feels like, I don't know, just the most easygoing for you right now. Good. Right. So for this next shape, it's going to be helpful to have a blanket. It's a little bit rough on the inner knees. And the block could be super helpful here too. We're gonna, okay, I want to say first that if you don't want to do frog pose, I won't feel offended whatsoever. But I was thinking of maybe like a minute in a frog pose, which is your knees nice and wide. And maybe your legs are at kind of like 90 degrees. So your ankles are straight down from your knees, your knees are straight up from your hips. And then you just kind of lower down into your forearms. I have a block under my chest that feels really nice and supportive to have like kind of right under my rib cage. Good, allowing the inner line of the legs to find a little bit of space. This big external rotation of your femur and your hip socket. Good. Maybe another like 4 or 5 breaths here if you are holding a frog pose. Good. And yet another pose to kind of really carefully extract yourself from. Good. Maybe lifting up the hips and bringing the knees back down. We'll all be back in a downward facing dog. If after a really big front body opener, you want to do a little bit of strengthening and come forward and back to high plank a couple times, you can do that. But eventually we're all going to make our way into a pigeon pose. So it could be your right knee in between your hands, your left leg long behind you. You might decide to drop your hips to the right and slide your left knee up into the sole of your right foot and fold forward. Or everyone's favorite, figure 4 on your back. Yeah, so just choosing one of those. Good, and as you find your pigeon shape, just breathe as consciously as you can. Yeah, just kind of sticking with yourself. Good. Good, and eventually just kind of making your way out of pigeon on this side and coming to the other side. You might take downward facing dog into vinyasa if you want to. Or maybe you just gently rock over to your right hip and swing that left leg around the front. And then swing that right leg around behind you. If you're on your back, even easier. Just change the cross of your ankles. Good, settling yourself in. Good, last couple breaths. Nice. If you're on your back, good news. You get to stay. Let's all, the rest of us, find our backs. Sitting there in your favorite way. Soles of the feet together, knees drop out wide, recline bound angle. Might be nice to have your hands on your low belly. If there are any other poses that you like to take to close out your practice, like a couple of little twists, or maybe a bridge pose, or I don't know, really anything at all, shoulder stand. You might take one of those for a moment before extending your legs out long. You might just be ready for Shavasana, that's great too. And giving yourself exactly what you need. Maybe a little bit of what you want. And settling yourself. Just a little bit more from that piece on vulnerability by David White. He wrote, to have a temporary, isolated sense of power over all events and circumstances is a lovely, illusionary privilege and perhaps the prime and most beautifully constructed conceit of being human, and especially of being youthfully human. But it is the privilege that must be surrendered with that same youth, with ill health, with accident, with the loss of loved ones, to not share our untouchable powers. Powers eventually and most emphatically given up as we approach our last breath. The only choice we have as we mature is how we inhabit our vulnerability, how we become larger and more courageous and more compassionate through our intimacy with disappearance. Our choice is to inhabit vulnerability as generous citizens of loss, robustly and fully, or conversely as misers and complainers, reluctant and fearful, always at the gates of existence, but never bravely and completely attempting to enter, never wanting to risk ourselves, never walking fully through the door. And just allowing yourself this time to deeply feel into your body. And into your own experience. With a compassionate and honest eye. Another few breaths here. Wonderful. Right, little wiggles when you're ready. Those tiny intuitive movements that turn into bigger movements. Those bigger movements turning into all of us sitting up eventually, unless you are done for the day. Maybe as we sit up, we take a look at each other. We look at each other's names. They're really gorgeous pictures. And then let's take our hands out nice and wide and just take kind of a big stretch here, reaching your fingers out to the sides and maybe like dipping over here and hi friends, and then over here to the other box. Yeah, let's reach those arms up. Big stretch. Then exhale, drop your hands down towards your heart and your head down towards your hands, honoring your practice and honoring each other. Oh, yay. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming this evening and moving and doing the things.